If you know anything about Portland, you know that it consists of a whole series of individual neighborhoods, each with their own character, their own flavor, their own demographic in some cases. And so we have an opportunity to maintain the strength of the communities, which is all the people, not just the people who can afford lattes and condos, but the people that live throughout the region.
Metro, as well as the 3 county governments and all 25 cities and the various stakeholders, land use advocates, natural resource advocates, citizens were able to come together on a plan that we think will work well for generations 50 years into the future.
Making the Greatest Place is a continuation of a 30-year effort to change how we grow in the region and the state. To change from a sprawling pattern of development to compact, vibrant cities surrounded by farm and forest land and natural resources.
Urban growth boundary in the Portland area has been very successful in terms of reducing the amount of farmland and forest land that has had to be used for urbanization over time. The urban growth boundary concept started as part of Oregon's statewide land use program about 35 years ago. And the basic idea is that communities will have limits in terms of how far they grow so that they grow efficiently within that area and so that we conserve the very important farmland and forest land that's very productive here in Oregon outside of those boundaries.
Every time you find a reason not to build on an acre inside the urban growth boundary, you are sentencing an acre outside the urban growth boundary to eventual development. So which thing do you want to preserve? A piece of land inside the UGB that's probably already somewhat ecologically degraded anyway, or preserve a piece of pristine land that's outside the UGB.
The traditional ways of financing infrastructure and development is not going to work in the future because we have a lot of changes occurring, as we all know. Money's harder to come by, markets have changed. So Metro reached out to the business community and said, why don't you help us?
Great plans don't mean anything unless, of course, we have investment dollars to focus our investments. We have really evolved in the past couple of years at Metro from a planning agency to start to think about what kind of investments on the ground do local communities need to help grow up, to build their downtowns and their main streets. And so we're trying to develop an array of services at Metro under the Making the Greatest Place moniker that describes the technical and financial resources that we might be able to provide the local jurisdiction to do that.
Building along transit lanes like this allows people not to have a car.
Having transportation options is one of the key elements of making a place livable. The place that has only a car, the only way to get to a coffee shop, a dry cleaner, a grocery store, really limits what one gets to be able to do.
We just come down here all the time.
We used to drive, right?
Yeah, but there's no place to park.
Here in the Portland region, we consider it to have a walkable, bikeable, transit-friendly community is something that is very, very important. It's really what makes for livability.
Our average incomes here are actually lower than a lot of cities on the West Coast. Part of Making the Greatest Place is to try and explore implementing this principle that the benefits and burdens of growth and change are shared equitably.
Well, they're trying to make sure that each community is included in every neighborhood.
We're taking the approach that there are 25 cities and 3 counties, and if they reach their vision, we're successful.
For the city to be great, it needs to be reflective of the population that is represented there. So as long as planning agencies from Metro to the U.S. government do that, then I think we'll be in good shape.
It's really about community. It's not just Portland. I mean, the conditions are ripe here. We're very excited because there's a long history of planning. But I think that folks across the country really want these things.
What we do here is far from perfect. We have a lot of work ahead, but I hope it's inspiring to other people in communities like ours to try to make a better future for all the citizens.